Kelly's SBA Economic Development Advisory Committee's first webinar. So our Congresswoman Kelly unfortunately cannot be here live today because they called a committee meeting in DC. But we do have remarks from her. So Louise, could you please play that now? Cannot hear you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first webinar hosted by the 2nd Congressional District's SBA Economic Development Advisory Committee. Small businesses are the foundation of our communities. In New York, my grandparents started Ross's Grocery, a mom and pop grocery store where my grandparents' grit and entrepreneurial spirit created economic opportunity and food security for so many in their Harlem neighborhood. That's where I learned not only the value of hard work, but the importance of small businesses in our communities. In November, I formed this advisory committee to ensure that the concerns of small businesses are directly addressed. The committee gives business owners, contractors, and executives the opportunity to speak up and make suggestions. The goal is to take those ideas and suggestions back with me to Washington to bring about real change. The advisory committee will be conducting a series of webinars such as this one to inform small business owners on the SBA, as well as other educational programs that are available. These programs will stream live on Facebook and will be posted on my YouTube channel so those unable to live stream can access them later. I'm pleased to report that business owners and chambers of commerce from Chicago, South Suburban Cook County, Will County, and Kankakee County have joined our advisory committee. I welcome each and every one of you. Today's webinar is on PPP readiness. Our panel of experts are going to instruct on how to fill out Paycheck Protection Program applications. After the webinar, you'll have all the information you need to confidently fill out the form. I want to thank our panelists for volunteering their time to provide us with this important information and guidance. Carol Harris from the SBA, Thurman Tony Smith from PNC Bank, Carl Riley II from Fifth Third Bank, Ronald Millsap from Providence Bank, Nat Ozuski from People's Bank of Kankakee County, I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, Daryl Newell of Seaway Bank, and Scott Smith from First Trust Bank. I hope our webinar will be beneficial for everyone. And I also want to thank April Williams-Luster, my district office outreach manager, who I will turn it over to now. Thank you, April.
Welcome, Congresswoman Kelly. So I first would like, so as Congresswoman Kelly spoke in her opening remarks, that she started SBA Economic Development Advisory Committee. So those individuals are composed of small businesses, Chamber of Commerce from all over Chicago, the South Suburbs, Will County, and Kankakee County. So we have Kendra Dinkins from Taylor Electric, Jesse Erickson from Link Point Media, Ian Gonzalez from Last Lab Corner Store, Cornelius Griggs from GMA Construction, Sean Harris from Livewire Construction, Mike Jordan from State Farm, Melinda Kelly from Chatham Business Association, Lovia Moore, she's on from South Highland Business Association, Becky Broderick from Kankakee County Chamber of Commerce, Angela Maury, she's now with the, I forgot, I gotta scroll down. She's with the Kankakee Alliance. Let me see, what is that called? I just lost the name of it because she moved position. Tim Nugent with Economic Alliance of Kankakee County. David Price with SSA number 5 Commercial Avenue. We have Sarah Marion from Mantino Chamber of Commerce. Stacy Pitts Caldwell, who's from Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce. Jay Reddy, who's here from Metro Alliance. Jane Rowland from Calumet City Chamber of Commerce, and Rodney Young Jr. from Homewood Chamber of Commerce. So we're comprised of small businesses and chambers throughout, like I said, Cook County, the city of Chicago, south suburbs, Wales, and Kankakee County. So right now, I know everybody wants to learn the information that we're here to present. We're going to start with Carol Harris from SBA. She is a lead economic specialist in the Illinois district for Small Business Administration, and also Mark Ferguson, who is the deputy district director. He's on also in case she needs a little, as he told me, he's her wingman. So in case she just needs a little help, but I think Carol is very well versed. So, turn it over to you, Carol.
Thank you, April. I just want to first of all say thank you to Congresswoman Kelly for the opportunity to present. And obviously with the lenders that are on the line and the chambers of commerce, you know that we are able to execute this program and present it based upon your cooperation and collaboration. So we very much so appreciate you working with us. To the general audience, just appreciate having the opportunity to speak to you. Congresswoman Kelly's area covers urban, suburban, and rural. And so we want to talk about this process of Paycheck Protection, the program. I'm going to share a little bit of information related to EIDL, and let's move it forward. I would like for everyone to be aware that there was a disclaimer on that first page, just speaking to the fact that our guidance is covered and our guidance is reflected in procedural notices. So in moving forward the agenda, we're going to share some basic information as to where we are. We'll talk about what is considered to be a first draw and a second draw, forgiveness, EIDL information, and additional resources. I would like for everyone to be aware of the fact that at the start of this pandemic, quite a few, almost every federal agency put in place procedures and programs. And it was really important for us to be able to assist citizens and taxpayers, and most importantly, small business owners navigate through the COVID-19 pandemic. So what took place is that in December of 2020, Congress passed and the president signed into law the economic aid to hard-hit small businesses, nonprofits, and venues. I refer to it as the EA2, which is the Economic Aid Act. And so this act includes some general sort of kind of upgrades and adjustments to the previous Economic Aid Act. And we're working expediently to try to get this information out to the community. So let's talk about what is the definition of a first draw. Basically, a first draw is when a small business owner is looking to receive a Paycheck Protection Program loan. They have not received a loan before the program initially closed in August of 2020. What we did was we expanded out the additional types of entities that were eligible. We expanded out the eligible expenses. We are working with borrowers so that they fully understand with lenders that they have between 8 to 24 weeks to disperse their funds. We know that borrowers may look to request an increase in the additional amount, and the big issue is the time. We're suggesting that small business owners apply as soon as possible. We would suggest to you that you are going to look to work actively with your lender to get your application in. The timeline on this program is through March 31st, or
Did we lose Carol?
No.
I believe we lost. Carol, can you hear us?
I don't, she's still on the screen. She's still blank. I don't hear her either.
Get up my, oh, there she's back. Carol, can you hear us?
did something go wrong?
Yes, we can
Yeah,
hear you.
recall we had this issue with her in the last couple of calls where her sound was going in and out.
Carol, can you hear us?
Can
So
you
you
all
want
hear
to send
me?
her a text?
Can I get any feedback?
Yeah, we're here, CJ.
Hello?
We're here.
I can't hear anything. Hello?
We
Keep
can hear
going.
you.
We can hear you. One second.
We can hear you.
Okay, so where I was at, if you can hear me, because I'm not getting any feedback from anyone, is that basically the timeline for this is March 31st. Okay, thank you. Okay, for congressional appropriations or until congressional appropriations expire. So we're encouraging small business owners to make certain that you try to get your application in to your lender as soon as possible. Could we go to the next slide, please? Okay, now let's talk about this process of eligibility. So initially, I'm going to start on the bottom of the slide. Business entities, partnerships, corporations, LLCs are eligible, as are, and this is super important, sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed individuals, those people that receive 1099s. Nonprofit organizations, 501c3s, and 501c19 veteran organizations and tribal businesses are eligible. But newly eligible includes housing cooperatives, eligible news organization, destination marketing, and here's what's really important, perhaps 501c6s. Some organizations of that type, including chambers of commerce, are eligible. Again, as mentioned, the additional types of expenses that are covered are going to include operational expenses, certain property damage costs, supplier costs, and worker protection expenditures. If you happen to be a small business owner and you have to load up on PPE, those types of expenditures related to your employee protection gear, those expenses are eligible. The percentages of loan proceeds for Paycheck Protection loans should be 60% is related to your payroll and those additional costs related to your payroll, such as any type of, for instance, vacation and or sick leave and payroll costs. And then 40% is available related to your operating expenses. Next page, please. Okay, now let's talk about what's a second draw. What takes place is a second draw is a small business owner that's looking to receive a second Paycheck Protection Program loan. And so for borrowers that have previously received a loan, have 300 or fewer employees and have suffered a 25% reduction in gross receipts, those are considered to be second draw applicants. For most borrowers, this is really important. The way to take a look at the calculation for your loan is going to include looking at 2.5 times your average monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll costs, and that's up to $2 million. Another new portion of this Economic Aid Act is that for those borrowers that are under the NAICS code, and that stands for North American Industrial Classification Standard, the code is 72, which is accommodation and food services. The maximum loan amount is now calculated at 3.5 average monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll costs. Again, up to $2 million. We do have frequently asked questions at our website that will walk you through the math for the amount of the loan that you could receive. We do also suggest that second draw applicants will submit an SBA Form 2483SD when applying to their lender. What are some of the important things that should take place? You want to make certain as a small business owner that your business financials are in order. You want to make certain that you're talking with your lender and you are aware of how they are receiving these applications. And the lenders will step into what tools that they have available to you as an applicant to be a successful applicant and get to yes. But I want to emphasize that what's super important for small business owners is make certain your business financials are in place so that you are prepared to answer the questions that the lender may have for you so that you can be successful in the process of getting access to these loan funds. Can we go to the next page, please? Okay, so again, with the second draw, the whole issue is that you have previously received a first draw, okay? And from there, that you have either used the funds or have specifically allotted those funds for disbursement, that you have no more than 300 employees, and that you can demonstrate a 25% reduction in gross revenues between comparable quarters in 2019 and 2020. So we're really speaking apples and apples and oranges and oranges. So if you choose the second quarter of 2019 and you take a look at your gross receipts, when you look at the second quarter of 2020, do you see a 25% reduction? If you do, and you happen to be a second draw applicant, then it appears that you would be eligible. But the key is you want it to have comparable quarters. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. So kind of what takes place next is what's really good about this Paycheck Protection Program loan is that it includes a forgiveness component, which means that you can receive a 1% interest, 60-month loan, and you can have that loan forgiven. Okay, that's what's super, super, super important. You would look to file what's known as a 3508 with your lender. There's a couple of different formats. There's the S, the EZ, or the 3508. And the specifics related to those forms, and again, how to complete them, there are links at the SBA's website. But if you received a first round Paycheck Protection Program loan, and or if you're filing for a second, and again, if you're looking for forgiveness, you would look to submit the 3508 SEZ and or regular format for forgiveness. And that's super important. That's what's really unusual. And that's why we're really encouraging small businesses to understand that there's a good opportunity to get funding, and you want to take a look at this paycheck protection loan. So here's a few of the updates. As mentioned before, some adjustments. The advances are no longer deductible. You should be aware that the expenses that are paid from a paycheck protection loan are tax deductible. You should consult with your tax consultant and or advisor related to that information. That there are forgivable expenses, that category has been expanded. Okay. And again, that you would look to submit a forgiveness form, a 3508, to your lender to seek forgiveness. Can we get to the next slide, please? Okay. Now, just kind of an update and some information. We spoke about the Paycheck Protection Program loan. I want to share some information related to the EIDL loan program, and that would be actually items 3 and 4. The EIDL, which stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, is a direct loan program. The Paycheck Protection Program loan is a guaranteed loan. So if you're a small business owner and you're seeking assistance under Paycheck Protection, you make application directly to the bank, okay, to your lender of choice, okay? And we do want to encourage you, if you're a second round applicant, please make certain that in the process of presenting your business financials that you do include your application number. That is, your prior Paycheck Protection loan application number. That's super important. But with the EIDL loan, the EIDL is a direct loan, which means you actually make application to the SBA. And again, EIDL stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And please know that that portal is open. So you would go to the SBA.gov. You can look up COVID-19. You can look up lending opportunities. You can look up coronavirus, but you will see under SBA.gov the opportunity to go to the loan portal and make direct application for an economic injury disaster loan. Now, the targeted advance amount is specific to low, moderate income areas, and there are some additional criteria, again, that is listed at the SBA's website related to the EIDL advance. With the EIDL disaster loan, that is an amortization up to 30 years. The interest rate is at 3.75 for small businesses, 2.75 for not-for-profits. Related to the second listing, the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, also known as SOS, Save Our Stages, for live music venues, performance areas, and museums and the rest. That is a grant program. And what I would suggest again is you would want to take a look at our frequently asked questions that are listed at the SBA website. Please be aware that if you're interested in this program, you need to register in SAM, which stands for the System for Awards Management, and you cannot receive a Paycheck Protection loan and a Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. So it's either one or the other. There's quite a few considerations that you would look to make as a small business owner if you are interested. Related to the debt relief program, SBA is working with with lenders throughout the country, and we are covering the principal and interest on guaranteed loans. Initially, it was for 6 months. The Economic Aid Act added an additional 3 months. For the temporary 7A loan program enhancements, SBA is waiving all guaranteed loan fees. And then finally, for the 8A Business Development Program extension, the highlight on that is that there's consideration for an additional year. Normally, the period for 8A Business Development, it's a 9-year period, and now an additional year is being added to that program. So with that said, as I mentioned, there's a lot of updates related to the Economic Aid Act. What is super important, can we get to the next slide, is that you do a couple things. If you are interested in applying for a Paycheck Protection Program loan, you want to connect with your lender. We always suggest that you speak with your lender where you have an existing business and or personal banking relationship. If you don't have a lender, you can take a look at Lender Match and look to see if with the input of some information, you can be matched with a lender in your community. And Lender Match will also provide you with information related to SBA resource partners. Please take a look at our website under PPP for up-to-date information and documents. You can connect with local resources by going to local-assistance, and you can find one of the 42 small business development centers that are in the Illinois area under the Illinois Small Business Development Center Network, and or the 5 SCORE chapters, and or the 2 women's business centers. You obviously can subscribe to our newsletter under updates. And if you find that you have a specific question, you can email us at illinois.do@sba.gov. We have a staff of about 16 people. We are meeting regularly, twice daily, to talk about, to sort through, and to make certain that we are addressing the needs of citizens, small businesses, and constituents, answering questions and conducting webinars. As mentioned before, the work that we're able to do is so important that we work collaboratively with chambers of commerce, with small business development centers. And also, and this is what's really important, with lenders, because to execute the Paycheck Protection Program, we have to work with lenders. So I think for everyone that's on the line, you're going to appreciate the next level of discussion by which the lenders that are present are going to share with you some tips related to how to make application and what it is that they're looking for, because all of our efforts are getting towards yes. We want to try to get this $260 billion out to small businesses in the community. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, and so here's just the feedback to let us know how we're doing. Hopefully we are meeting you at your point of need, but continue to listen in on the webinar so you can get some really good information from the lenders. And with that, April and lenders, I've completed my comments. I'm going to go into mute and then also take a look at the questions that are in the chat box. Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thank you very much, Carol. As always, valuable information you share with us. So at the end, I'm not sure how you guys want to do it. Do you want to wait for all questions at the end, or do we have questions for Carol right now? Because I was thinking that we have the lenders all present and then you can ask them all at the end. So if that's the case, then Tony.
Happy to join, and I know you have a few slides for me, so why don't we put that first slide up?
Luis, you have that?
Thank you. First of all, I want to quickly acknowledge our partners at the SBA, and we know they're just, doing a tremendous job here. For those of you who don't know, we got a couple of folks that need to be on mute. If you're not on mute, if you'll go on mute, hey, thank you. But what we know today is that there are already over 900,000 applications that have been approved, totally somewhere north of $73 billion. So the good news is the money is not flowing out as quickly as it did in the first round, but it is moving. And I wholly expect that when we look at those numbers at mid-February to late February, we're going to find that we will probably approach exhaustion. What's also worth noting, and Carol, of course, if I'm stealing a little bit of your thunder, you can always take that back. But what we do know about applications that have come in, we know that there were roughly slightly more than 51,000 in Illinois alone, totaling over $4.4 billion that have been approved. And somewhere close to 68% of all of the PPP loans approved so far in this round were $50,000 or less. And if we look at one other level, it's worth noting that roughly 23,000 were female-run businesses versus 53 male. And then roughly 814,000 of the applicants essentially chose not to disclose whether they were female-run, which I found intriguing. But all of this is publicly available information on the web. And it's, again, worth noting that these are highly concentrated in small loans of $50,000 or less. Banks obviously generating roughly 4,000 out of 4,900 of the lenders that are participating. But that suggests that there are a number of non-bank lenders out there making these as well. The last thing I'd point out, just on what's happening PPP, is that roughly 67 million out of the total 72 million are second draw loans. So the vast majority of the applicants are going for second round compared to 4.8 billion first draw. And our experience is at PNC is mirroring this as well. So we're excited about the volumes that are occurring at the program. In terms of what we do, our aim is to make this as easy for you as possible. And our online process is essentially an end-to-end online. You're able to fill out fillable applications online. You're able to submit all of your supporting documents online. In the first round, we approved somewhere close to 13 billion in loans, totaling roughly 73,000 in approved applications, average loan size of about 178,000, with roughly 1.5 billion in Illinois, compared to 0.17 or roughly 170 million in Chicagoland for this round. 25,000 applications in, obviously less than that already approved, but I think we're close to 10,000 already approved and funded. So bottom line is the applications are getting through the SBA's well-oiled process. If you want a PPP a loan from PNC, it's pretty easy. You go online, go to the next slide, please. And we make it pretty easy. You're either an existing PNC online banking customer or you're not. If you're not, we have a process for getting you enrolled so that we can comply with all of the Know Your Client rules and, more importantly, be able to auto deposit your money safely in your account and to avoid fraud and some of the other challenges that might be out there. What we do, if you go to the next slide, is we recommend that the most important thing you can do if you want to be successful in the PPP process is to have your information organized. So, certainly you want to have your application, your identification credentials, your payroll, quarterly financials, tax returns. We just caution that everyone be aware that unlike the first round, when you're submitting financial data, if you are not audited, then you're required to apply your signature to that financial statement, and you have to initial all of the key pages. This is a requirement from the SBA. It's not your bank, but please have that. When you're submitting your data, remember payroll is not just wages or tips or others. It also includes benefits and healthcare. So when you're submitting, make sure you include benefits and healthcare, because your PPP amount is a multiple of those three things combined. Notwithstanding the fact that X percent, I think it's roughly 60%, has to come from this category, and you can use the balance to cover other approved costs like mortgage, interest, utilities, rent, and other costs. So make sure you read or you go to SBA.com, and you can see all the additional elements, or we make it easy for you at PNC. We have a FAQ, a frequently asked questions segment. You can pop on that, and there's a very good chance that some 90+% of all of the questions that might come up have already been asked, and we have answered those and made it easy for you to get that. I'm also very quick to remind you that it is about a qualification is that you had a reduction in a quarter-by-quarter comparative sales to the same period in the prior year. So organize your information by quarter so you can compare and figure out whether or not you satisfy that criteria in any one quarter. I'm going to pause here. Again, it's a pretty easy process. You're going to find that most of the banks have the we're all reflecting the SBA's information requirements. We're all going to provide online assistance, or you can make an appointment and come into a branch. But for the most part, we're trying to keep it very safe and automated for you, and look forward to working with you. So I'm going to pause here, April. I know you got a lot of the agenda, so thank you.
Very much, Tony. And I forgot to mention, he is the Senior Vice President of Community Development Banking at PNC Bank. So now we'll go to Scott Smith, who is the President of First Trust Bank in Kankakee. Welcome.
Scott, you're muted.
Can you hear me okay? Excellent. I want to thank Congresswoman Kelly and her staff for putting this together this morning. It's great to be here and to see all these faces here. As was said before, I'm president of First Trust Bank of Illinois here in Kankakee. We're a locally owned and operated community bank in Kankakee with assets of a little bit over $360 million and 6 offices spread throughout Kankakee and Iroquois County. And given that our bank was founded by a group of local businessmen, we've historically made our local business community a significant focus of ours. And getting to be involved with local business owners and leaders is really the best part of my job. In my role here at the bank, this ties into the SBA program, you know, as management of the banks, as a group of the bank's management, as well as a lender, I've gotten to see firsthand the challenges that a global pandemic has thrown at our small businesses. And I've also seen firsthand the difference a personal touch can make for businesses in these trying times and for getting through a process like the PPP program. I think as you'll find here as we listen to all the different panelists, all of our institutions have different philosophies or mechanisms at getting to the same result here. And ours has been handling these for the most part person to person. We can obviously handle as much as possible via electronic means to keep people socially distanced and safe. But in many cases, we are finding that it's helpful to either sit down face-to-face or across a video screen with applicants and help them fill out their applications. We've done that with countless folks, and we're happy to do that with both existing customers of the banks as well as prospective new customers as well. You know, since March, we've submitted over 225 applications into the PPP process, and those loans have ranged anywhere from hundreds of dollars to millions of dollars. And I can say those loans have truly provided a lifeline for many businesses in these trying times, and those dollars have stayed right here in our hometown community, which is a wonderful thing. Before I turn this over to the next panelist, I do want to leave you with an example of just how these loans.
You're freezing on us.
What'd you say? Can you hear me?
I said my computer, you froze up a little bit.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we're fine, Scott. I think you're working generally.
Okay. Oh, very, very good. I did want to leave you with a good example of how this program has helped borrowers in our respective communities. You know, mid-April, we were in the heart of the pandemic, and the program was getting up and running. I was able to get a longtime customer of ours, their first round PPP program, or their application loaded into E-Tran, got the requisite confirmation number, and I called the gentleman that owned the business, a true mom and pop operation. Husband and wife both work there every day, and told him that we'd gotten his confirmation. He called me back about 10 minutes later and said, "Are you promising me I'll get my money?" And I said, "Absolutely." And he said, "That's great." He said, "My wife wants to call each of our employees and tell them that their paycheck will be there as scheduled next week, even though we've been closed for a few weeks." He said, "We hate it that they had to be sitting at home worrying if there could be any disruption there." And the reason I do bring that up for folks that are listening today is we do hear horror stories out there of, you know, the one-off publicly traded company that got millions of dollars, and you'd question whether or not they deserved it. Well, what I can say is for every one of those stories of abuse, from personal experience, I've seen countless examples of where the Paycheck Protection Program has kept paychecks flowing for households throughout our community. So thank you, and I hope people continue to use the program, and encourage anyone to reach out with any questions they may have.
Okay, so it looks like April is going to try to refresh her computer. It looks like next we have, let's see, Mr. Ronald Millsap, Vice President of Mission Banking and CRA Officer, Providence Bank and Trust.
Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate you all. I'm going to take and do a quick screen share. Can you enable the screen share again?
Give me 1 second. Try now.
Okay. Okay, so I want to start by kind of walking folks through our website and showing them where they can go on our website to find out more about our Paycheck Protection Program. So if you see that web link up there, that's Providence.Bank Paycheck Protection Program. And here we actually provide a lot of the resources that folks will need when reaching out to the bank to inquire about our program. We are a little over $1.2 billion in assets. The bank is about 16 years old, started in 2004. We've done a lot in this past year with the Paycheck Protection Program, a little over 128 million in total funding, right about 830 applications. And so far through this third round here, we've done just about 300 applications and are working with clients as they come through. You can call our customer service, go into our branches, or email us. Our lenders and our staff are all working with clients, mostly remotely and virtually through email, to process applications and work clients through this process. So you definitely have our website here, and I'll drop my contact information in this Zoom call so folks can also follow with me if they have additional questions. There's one more share I want to share with you guys. Are you guys seeing? I want to walk through some of our application requirements. So for new clients coming to us, here's our documentation checklist essentially. We're going to need those payroll expense documents that everyone has referenced. We also want to gather articles and corporate bylaws and all of your information to prove who you are in terms of the individual as well as the business. We're working with existing clients as well as non-clients. Most of our existing clients have already have most of this documentation on file. For non-clients that are non-customers, we'll continue to work with you through the process. We've cut checks and done wires to support PPP for non-customers of the bank. Documentation requirements for sole proprietors and self-employed, fairly minimal. The last thing I want to do here is actually have some fun with the PPP process. So if you guys are familiar with Biggie Smalls and his 10 commandments, well, actually, I won't go into what his 10 commandments were, but I'm going to feature the 10 PPP commandments. And I like to start with first that, you know, a bank account is just, it's not a relationship. And I want people to understand the importance of actually having a relationship to an institution so that we can work with you not only through PPP, but through all of the different things that your business will go through on an up or the downswing. We talked about, you know, having some fraud in the program. And I like this next one, trying to deceive Uncle Sam will get you the hammer, a 9x12 cell with an orange jumpsuit. I almost want to play some background music to this, but this is just good to think of as you go through the program. Keep copious records, document. On your PPP application, don't forget to check all the boxes, provide signatures, initial all the boxes. When in doubt, check with your technical assistance advisors. A wise man always seeks good counsel. Keep PP funds and normal operations completely separated. What we did through the first round and what we're doing through this round is we're setting up separate accounts for our businesses so they can manage their PPP funds separate from their normal operations. And it really helps when they go back to apply for debt forgiveness. We can essentially just use their bank statements to, you know, validate their payroll and their other expenses. Make sure you read those attestations. You definitely want to get your forgiveness. Make sure every PPP dollar you spend with no less than 60% on your employees, not your friends. Never include 1099 contractors in your payroll calculations. And don't worry if you don't qualify for PPP. There's other programs out there for you, like EIDL, the Employee Retention Credit, and grants and other bank loans to explore. And that's pretty much my presentation.
Thank you very much, Ron. Now we're going to move on to Carl Riley II. He's VP of Small Business Community Lender, Fifth Third Bank.
Hey everybody, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, sharing screens. Let me see
So Ron, you have to take off your screen so he can share his.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out now. I don't know why I'm struggling with this. Give me 1 second.
You see that?
There we go.
Yes.
That's the application, guys. This is the application that everybody's been speaking about. So it's very important that you type it, if you can, please. We've got some handwritten applications that came back to me. What that means is I can receive these things via email, and then I can, you know, upload that information. I like to copy and paste it in there so there's no errors. But yeah, take it very seriously. Make sure your social security number is correct. Make sure your EIN number is correct.
Power on.
A person spelled their name Fisher with a C recently, and that was an error. So just make sure that you do everything. You look at this document closely because you want to make sure you can make it easy for yourself to get it forgiven. Like Ron said, like all the bankers say, you know, having a relationship with the bank, opening an account is for your KYC, knowing your customer. We would prefer to put the money into a bank account with the same name as the person or the business who is borrowing the money, so that we avoid fraud in situations like that. So I'm showing you guys what the application looks like. You can get this information from SBA or from your banker. You see some places in here you got to read through. The big thing that I'm finding, and it's been a rough little 3 weeks. You see this middle section here, it says reduction in gross receipts at least 25%. So, you know, that's for loans under 150,000. I've had to go back and forth with certain people. And so what I've learned is that, and this is what it is, that you can apply for this loan, right? If you don't have that information, it probably will not be forgiven, but it's a 1% loan. So, you know, we've opened that up a little bit. So just make sure you provide your 940 if you have employees. Don't come with me about 1099s. It's not going to work. 940 gives me your annual payroll that you paid out. And we'll divide that by 12 and be able to put that information right here. And of course, multiply it by whatever your NICS code is, and you go from there. So this is the application. It's very short. Now, another thing you need to know that I've been experiencing is that when you are above 150,000, then you need to give those reference quarters or annual, whatever it is, showing a 25% reduction in sales, not net income, sales, top line growth, please. And you need to sign and initial every page, all right? SBA wants to make sure they have your signature on the documents that you provide in case they have to go to court with you. So make sure that you have that signed and dated, all right? I wanna see another page here. So I did provide the link to the Fifth Third's PPP so that you can be able to, go through. I can copy and paste it again. It's in here. It's Fifth Third /content. But you know, last time we helped over 40,000 clients, and we built a nice little system to be able to manage that whole process. And it was like almost $7 billion in funding. And it's been, you know, we're slowing down a little bit on the processing of forgiveness at this moment because we're focusing our efforts on capturing as much of this this third round of PPP for everybody. But you know, we have a robust system that allows you to go in and just fill in your information for your forgiveness later on. So, and I do recommend you do the forgiveness. Please do the forgiveness because when your banker comes to look at you for a loan later on and you have this loan on here, you have to factor that into your analysis. And if this is something that's forgivable, keep records. Sit down with a payroll professional, Paycor, Paylocity, or ADP, or somebody, and get this stuff set up so you can easily show that you did it the right way. There's no reason for you to take this money and not do this the right way. So it's a great blessing. This is some opportunity that we haven't had in a long time, and certain communities have not seen. No credit score is needed. Biggest thing is 940 or 941 or W-3. If you work for somebody and they pay you 1099, you can apply. If you pay somebody 1099, you cannot apply with their stuff. So tell your people so they can go and apply. That's all I got.
That's very great. Thank you very much, Carl, for showing us the application so people can see it and, you know, get familiar with it. Next, I want to introduce Matt. I'm not even going to try to say your last name. He's the Vice President and Chief Credit Officer at People's Bank of Kankakee County.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the invite to participate, and I'll keep it short. My name is Matt Olszewski, and I've been a community banker for about 30 years. People's Bank is one of a few of a dying breed. We are a family-owned bank. We've got one guy that holds all the shares, and his father started the bank, and his son is the president of the bank. So we are definitely the old school family bank. We're about 300 million. So unlike PNC at about 450 billion with a B, we're 300 million with an M. And I sure would like to have all that fancy website technology and application functionality. Unfortunately, we don't have that. So if you contact us for a PPP loan, we'd be happy to email you the application form. We'll send you a secure link so that you're not emailing documents over the open internet. So this way it's all protected and encrypted. People's Bank was not an active SBA lender before the pandemic. But when the pandemic hit and the PPP program was rolled out, we got together and looked at it and said, you know, this is something that our community is desperately in need of. and we better be ready to provide this. So we rolled up our sleeves, we jumped in. That first weekend in April when things opened up, I had the chief financial officer, I had the president of the bank, I had all my loan officers working all weekend long, because we knew on Monday, when the big banks got in Monday morning, they were going to suck up all that money. We better have our guys in there. And I think our last conversation was 11:30 Sunday night, putting in our last application before Monday morning through E-Tran. And then, thank goodness the SBA, who has worked so hard through all this, came up with the new portal to accommodate the call it third round of activity, because it certainly has been a joy to work in that new portal. Just a couple things that I've observed in handling these loan applications, and I while I was listening to the other speakers, I put another one in the portal just now. Couple common errors that I've seen. A lot of the business owners are putting in the business EIN in the ownership section where they should put their personal social security number. So that's just something to look out for. If your business is owned by another entity, then you use the EIN, but if it's owned by an individual, then that needs to be their social security number there. I've seen a lot of applications missing the initials, especially on the 2 questions regarding felonies and incarceration. They've got an initial inside the box there, in addition to all the certifications they make on the other page. And then one other observation, unfortunately for some of our sole proprietors who file Schedule C on their personal tax return, if that line 31 does not show a profit and they don't have any wages paid to employees, then they are not eligible for a PPP loan. And I've seen that many times where they apply, we get their Schedule C, and they are showing a loss and they have no employees. Unfortunately, that individual is not going to be able to get a PPP loan. And then they need to follow up on some of the other assistance that's available, such as the EIDL loan and that sort of thing. But we are, as I said, community family-owned bank in Kankakee County. Did about 20 million the first time through. So far, the demand on the second time has been a little less, and I think that's a good thing, because a lot of my clients that got loans the first time, they don't qualify the second time because they didn't experience that 25% decline in revenue. So while they're crying because they're not getting some free money, they're doing okay. And that means the money's available for those businesses that really need it. And I can tell you, I've had multiple borrowers tell me, but for the PPP loan, they would not be in business. And so thank you, SBA, for taking care of this. I know that when Congress put this on your lap, you turned to the banks to help you get it out there. And I think the banks stepped up to the challenge. So thanks again for having us on.
You're definitely welcome, Matt. We have one more presenter, Daryl. I'm not sure if he's still on the, no, he never logged in. So now we'll take questions for the panel. Does anybody have questions for SBA or the different lenders? Does anybody have a question?
Sure. Yeah, April, I would ask, I think what Matt just shared, Mr. Olszewski, about the sort of common mistakes he's seeing. I wonder if any of the other lenders have things to add, because it's sort of the PPP confidential that we really need. There are a lot of webinars out there that tell us what the basic rules are and how it works, but it's in actuality, when people start filling it out, what are the keys to helping get it right?
Yeah, so Matt made a very solid point about the not initialing everywhere on the application that's supposed to be initialed. And, the other thing, the monthly number, even though you can get forgiven off of utility bills and off of, rents and all the other stuff, the monthly number, 940 divided by 12, that's the number that's going in that spot, all right? Or W3 divided by 12. Or line 31 on your Schedule C divided by 12 is going into that monthly number. We're going to multiply that by 2.5 or 3.5. That's your pot of money. Now you got to use 60% of it on payroll, and then the rest can be used for your utilities, for your rent and all that stuff. But, you know, it's very important that you apply. So I have had people who fatten that number up. You know, they give me the payroll, and then they give me the utility bill, the Sprint bill, the water bill, and no, it's just the 940 divided by 12.
That's the payroll. Yeah, that gets really, we've come across that too. It gets really confusing on the way in. On the way in, it's just based on payroll. It's the payroll protection loan. On the way out, it can be used for other things. But again, and this is what my follow-up question, if it goes right and you maintain your FTE levels and your payroll, then even though you can use it for those other expenses, you're likely to use it on payroll. You know, if you have 5 employees and they make, say, $40,000 a month, then you're going to get a $100,000 PPP loan, and you're going to spend it on those 5 employees in 2.5 months if you maintain your employment levels. Isn't that right? Don't you need to not even worry about all the other stuff if you're the standard case?
That's exactly right. And don't let the 60% rule confuse you. If you spend it all on payroll, then just submit your payroll. You don't have to go through the utility bills and the rent and the PPE. So for most of my clients, the payroll is more than sufficient to get full forgiveness. So that's a really good point that Carl made, and Jay, appreciate that question, because people do get confused that they got to submit other information. Hey, you know, once you cover it, stop, send it in, and be done. Let me get the forgiveness, and then you'll be on your way.
And we got under 150,000 EZ form now, so that's even better for everybody. I think we also had to take a breath and slow down and just process under 150,000 is going to be forgiven with the EZ form. So
and that's something like 90% of businesses in the program, right? So it's only 10% who have the bigger loans, and it's a very small percentage who have a $2 million PPP. It's under $150,000 is the vast majority of who we're looking at.
Yeah, and Carl, that brings up, it brings up another good point. The forgiveness applications have been revised. So if you got a first round loan and you got your forgiveness application ready to go, if you don't have the second round forgiveness application, make sure you get the new one, because it's much easier. Under 150,000, you don't even have to send in any documentation. Just sign the form and send it in.
And so the money is not running out as fast, okay? So I don't want anybody to be stressed out. Like last time, that was madness. We all were, every banker was elbow to elbow trying to get their applications. This time we're seeing that the SBA is being a lot more detailed about what they want to collect. And like I said, make sure that if you're going to give us financials, you sign and date every page. Otherwise, don't send them, because it's not going to get anywhere. 940s, and just, you know, go through that application and type it up so that way your banker can look at it and easily understand what you're putting in there. But yeah.
Yeah, but again, remind folks, there's still a deadline for the program. So you want to get all of this done by the end of March. And there's a reason the money isn't running out as fast. A lot of the big players aren't eligible to apply this time around. And even when you look at this round, notwithstanding the fact that somewhere close to 70+% of all of the applications are under 150,000 bucks, that only makes up about 35% of the money that's going out the door. So it's still highly weighted in terms of dollars for these larger applications. But to Carl's point, it's not flowing out as quickly. We've got time. Let's get it right. Getting back to Jay's question about common mistakes, and I think this echoes what Matthew shared. For those companies that are relying on Schedule C and showing losses, you manage the losses because you don't want to pay taxes. But we'll also look above the line to see if you have wages. Matt used the term employees, and a lot of times self-employed folks don't think of themselves as an employee. They might put in payroll or wages. So make sure if you are paying yourself, you know, make sure that you've got that listed. Now, of course, if you're paying yourself or paying your spouse, generally they're either an employee or a 1099. So want to think about how you are paying that person and avoid that error. Because I've seen a case where an entrepreneur paid a family member using 1099 and then tried to claim that. No, you can't claim the 1099, but if you're paying them payroll wages, you can. And if you're doing that, you should be reporting for tax purposes that you paid that particular employee. So in terms of other things, make it more efficient. I have found that when you PDF your documents rather than sending Word and Excel, they tend to translate better and they don't jam up the system. We're not having the same kind of system crashes this round that we had in the first round. So things are moving so much more smoothly this time around. And again, just don't forget to fully include all of the payroll related expenses. And if you have ADP or others, get those. As cited before, there's lots of technical assistance online with your banks, online with WBD, CRF. A lot of the non-bank companies like IFF and others have online assistance available for you as well. So it's not just the banks, notwithstanding the incredible group of talented bankers you got on the line today.
I'd also say here, we talk about a common issue, is a lot of industry groups have put out publications or guidance on how the program works. And really what people need to be looking at are the publications coming from the SBA themselves or the Treasury Department. A guidance coming from the AICPA or the American Bar Association isn't going to hold water on forgiveness or application process. We've got to follow what's been put out there by the people administering the program, which would be the SBA. So that's a problem I'm running into almost daily.
I think there's one more. For those smaller companies with one employee, so the engineering firm, the doctor, et cetera, where you earn as an individual more than $90,000, just remember you can still apply and count yourself only up to that cap. I think it was, must have been Ron. Ron corrected me, educated me on that one last time around. Ron, if you don't mind expanding on that rule, but I did find that there were folks who were excluding themselves totally because they thought they were over the cap.
Yeah, so that is a common one, Tony. And definitely, you definitely don't want to exclude your payroll out of the mix. You just have to hard cap it at 100,000. So if you made 140,000, you need to reduce it to 100,000 to include yourself as a part of your company payroll calculation. I would add another common mistake that I've seen on the forgiveness app, and this is the EZ. You get a lot of folks who submit their forgiveness application, and then on line 11, they're multiplying instead of dividing. So that's a little bit of a math error, but I've seen countless forgiveness applications come in where they're multiplying instead of actually dividing that line 11 of the EZ. Of course, the new 358S is really just making attestments, and definitely encourage folks to get those in when they're applying for their second draw. Another common mistake I've seen, and I've had some new applicants come through that didn't get their first loan through us, but some lenders actually use the 1099 for independent contractors to factor their PPP loan amount. And what's done is done, but it's the Schedule C, line 31. So you have some folks who actually got a much higher first draw on their PPP loan because 1099s were used. And the second draw is where that error is being either noticed or caught, and they're not able to go through and actually apply for a second draw nearly to the amount that they got in the first draw. So I would say I've been mindful of noticing on the independent contractor side that some folks didn't get an original calculation that was based on the rules of the program. I'm not sure how many folks have seen that one, but that's another one to be mindful of. It's a little disappointing to the client because they assume that they're going to get a second draw that's equivalent to their first, also based on the fact that they've actually had a reduction in gross receipts in 2020. But once again, it was the line 31C, not the 1099 by itself.
And Ron, let me just add, the option is with the borrower to use 2019 or use 2020. So for some of my borrowers, they've applied and they've thrown in 2020 payroll. And I asked them, I said, well, you probably had a reduction in 2020, right? And they said, well, yeah, we did. I said, well, you can still use 2019 to apply and get that higher payroll to get that bigger loan. So really important to look at it that way. And then I had another borrower who they got their first loan based on their 2019 payroll. But then when we looked at the second draw loan, we were able to qualify them as a seasonal business and therefore use a 12-week payroll period that gave them a loan about 100,000 higher than their first loan because we were able to use those seasonal rules instead of a whole year. So just be mindful of that and talk to your lender about whether that makes sense for your business. And there's very specific qualifying to be considered seasonal, but if it counts, you could get a much bigger loan.
I see Scott had put up a question about this is for the SBA. That he had to borrow when I guess Scott, you can say it. You was trying to get a second draw.
What I was saying on there, is there a good resource to reach out to at the SBA when there is, when they're dealing with as many files as they are, there are going to be glitches in the technical system. And for some reason, I got a borrower who is showing up as already having applied for round 2. They haven't. I mean, they've signed an affidavit for me saying they haven't, but I can't find anybody to clear that out of the system. Where do we turn to help somebody like that?
So I'm going to suggest that you would connect with our lender relations team.
Okay.
And Robert Esquivel leads up that team. And I know that they're clearing out quite a few errors and issues and codes. And so I was going to put it in the chat, the information, and I would surely like to follow up with you. I can get you this information so you all can have the lender-to-lender conversation. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Also, could all the lenders before this is over, put in their information and SBA put in all their contact information in the chat? Do we have any other questions?
Yes, I'm Bolivian, of course, and I wanted to ask the people that are on the panel some questions because I know that the questions have been asked about the forgiveness piece. Do you have to apply for forgiveness after you've exhausted all of your round 1 PPP loans? And then to apply for the second one, how soon is there a deadline as to a time frame as to how soon you can apply for forgiveness? Because I'm sure people don't want to miss out and say that, oh, I should have applied, 10 months ago or 11 months ago or 12 months ago or whatever. And they end up losing out because they didn't apply for the forgiveness. So is there a deadline for that? Did you guys understand my question?
The deadline is 10 months from the draw, the first one.
2 months from the cover period, Carl.
Cover period. So you don't have to wait. You can apply for both 1 and 2, and then do your forgiveness. So you can apply for both right now, and then go back and do your forgiveness. But the cover period, right? So like, say it again.
So they can be coupled. You can do the 1 and then apply for 2 consecutively and then just do 1 forgiveness, or do they have to be separate forgiveness for each?
It's going to be separate forgiveness.
Okay.
It'll be separate.
See, technically, the way the legislation, the way the reg reads is that it says, Vivian, it says that you should have either paid back or paid in full or be in the process of forgiveness for the first one before you can apply for your second round of PPP. It's assuming that you already got the first round, okay? Then you go back. But you technically, though, you have 10 months from the end of your covered period. Then it'll kick into a loan whether you like it or not.
Yeah, so Mark, if I just add to that. So for most borrowers who got it in the middle of last summer, so July of 2020, they have until March of 2026 to apply for the forgiveness. And of course, they had to have spent the money before they have 5 years and 10 months. right? 5 years for the loan
Not to
period.
apply for forgiveness. That's the end of the repayment. You got 10 months from the end of your covered period. If you don't apply by then, you start
Oh,
making.
the end of your, sorry, the covered period is the 24 weeks.
It's the
Not
24
the
weeks.
5-year loan period.
No,
That's
no,
right.
no,
You got 16
no, no.
months.
Okay.
16
I'd
months
have to go get
apply.
me a loan like that.
Yeah,
So we said,
yeah.
I get you, but to the same point. So in that case, people's covered period would have gone into the fall, and then they have 10 months from then, and they would have spent their money. But the reason I'm raising this is because Vivian and I work together on a network funded by DCEO to do outreach for PPP for the South suburbs, and you know, we're working with some very low capacity, a lot of individuals or 1, 2, and 3 person businesses. And their priority right now ought to be to get their numbers together. Maybe they have to finish their taxes in order to file for this draw on PPP, but they ought to do that before they worry about forgiveness, because they have a couple months left to apply for the forgiveness, so long as they've spent out the money from the first loan. That's what they have to be able to certify to, is that they will be applying for forgiveness. And I just, in terms of prioritization, forgiveness right now is not the priority. The priority is getting in under the wire by the end of March.
And hey, Jay, you don't have to have filed. You just, if you haven't filed, you can still just prepare the form that's necessary and submit that. It doesn't actually have to be filed for, as far as your taxes.
Right. Thank you.
All right, thank you for answering that. And I have one other question too, because I heard you guys discussing that there's some people who put like 1099s on their request for PPP. So for businesses who've done that, obviously it's incorrect. And is there some type of way for them to adjust that or appeal it? And who do they go to for that? You know, so that they're not slapped on the hand or dinged for it, you know, with IRS or with the SBA for some reason.
Okay, I think Mark is connecting.
I'm back. I'm sorry.
Hopefully, if they've done that, when their lender reviews and underwrites that application, the lender's going to be looking for the supporting documentation and would quickly see that you applied under a 1099, you paid 1099 wages, and it's, you know, that's probably get that 941, because a 1099 is not reported on Form 941 as wages. So hopefully the lender's going to catch that, and then, you know, then there'll be a conversation with the borrower. And we've had to have many conversations that, hey, you submitted this, we can include this, but we can't include that, and then we revise the application and help them get it submitted, and you go forward. But that's really the fail safe. The catch is on the part of the lender if the borrower did include ineligible payroll or 1099.
But I would piggyback off that and say that the onus is on the borrower to make sure what they submit is accurate and that they're getting good technical assistance, even beyond what the bank is providing to walk them through the application. So if you are in fact aware that you include a 1099, it's possible that the banker could miss it in their review. Contact that banker, make them aware of the miscalculation on your part, and then resubmit that application with the correct formulas for how you calculate your payroll. This is not on the onus of the bank. When it comes down to your forgiveness, if you can't prove it up, if you get audited or files get requested, you could end up with a loan. And you can't point back at the banker and say, well, banker didn't review it. The accountability is on you, the borrower.
I have a quick question. So you cannot even, so once you get the loan, you can't pay your 1099 employees with that money, correct?
You can pay them. Remember, there are two issues. There's what you do with the funds and what's forgiven. So the answer is you can pay whatever expenses you want with the monies once they're in your account. The spirit of the program is that you will pay employees. Now, and remember, you can pay rent and you can pay utilities, you can pay mortgage interest. If you choose to pay your 1099 employees, that's your option. But in terms of how much is forgiven, ultimately it will be what are the eligible employee costs times 2.5, except if you're in those industries where you can get 3.5. that will determine how much you get forgiven. The balance will be termed out as a loan repaid at the stated interest rate over the up to 5 years. So, so yes, April, you can do whatever you want, but you keep that very separate from what gets forgiven, because what's not forgiven becomes a liability, a debt for you that has to be repaid.
Because I know, like with churches, mainly the pastor may be on payroll, the pastor may be 1099, the choir director, the janitor. So they're just trying to figure out how they do that, so they can't get forgiven if they get the loan and pay, I guess, all their employees.
But
Think of it this way, April. A lot of those organizations, even if they're getting a loan, they probably couldn't have gotten from their bank to cover them through this really tough period in our economy at the lowest interest rate they will probably ever get anywhere. So the downside is you got a loan, but hopefully they have enough eligible expenses to get them fully forgiven. And I have to believe they're employees. So
that's why I would say make sure they get payroll. You know, this is a great time to talk to your banker about payroll services, because if you're paying everybody 1099, maybe you want to start paying them as an employee through this covered period.
That's smart.
You know, this is money you're getting, get it covered.
This is Linda Kelly from Chatham Business Association. I apologize for chiming in late, but I just wanted to remind everybody, for Congresswoman Kelly, we work closely with her and the SBA and a lot of lenders on this panel. As you see, there's a lot of nuances to it, so we can help you get ready to get ready. What we find is the businesses who just jump online, which, you know, we want you to do it in a hurry, but there are forms that we have, the SBA forms, and that we can make sure you have the questions right. We know you're using cell phones, but you should have a business phone, your NAICS codes. We can help you the pre-part, so you put all that in a folder before you jump on. Because as mentioned before, if you jump on, now you're starting to deal with, do I multiply, divide? If you have it in some sort of format before you do it, it really does help the businesses we had on the first round to be successful, to complete a good application so that the bankers can do what they should do for you. So I do just want to encourage you to use us for that part, because once it's submitted, you know, it's you and the banks, but we can definitely help you get ready, answer questions, and most of the lenders will answer our questions prior to, if you've got questions about your payroll. And I know the third-party payrolls we hear from the businesses, it's an expensive cost. Now, you have to weigh it, because not only do they help with the PPP, but they also help with other HR issues. But in the event you can't afford it, if you talk to the banks, there are a lot of programs and Quicken books that you can do your payroll if it's very small, for those one-off and one-ons that we're trying to just get them on a pathway, so that some external party is helping them manage their payroll versus them doing all these calculations and writing the check. Because more important now, you see how important it is to be accurate on your payroll.
Linda, I also want to say, like, Blevian and Jay, and then we have other chambers.
Yeah, all of us.
Right. We have them throughout Congresswoman's district, and we have them throughout, you know, the city and the counties, you know, south suburb. So if you guys want to put your information in the chat also, that you can assist businesses in helping, like we have Chatham, and you're with what organization, Ms. Moore?
The South Island Business Association.
Okay, and then Jay?
Sorry, with the Southland Development Authority and the Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation, which is leading outreach for DCEO for the South Suburbs.
Okay. So all three of them actually are on Congresswoman Kelly's Small Business Administration Economic Development Advisory Committee. So they're part of her task force that are helping, you know, bring her the concerns and issues of small businesses, which she will take back to DC to hopefully get bring on legislation. So they're here to help you guys and our office, Congresswoman Kelly's office. Any other questions?
April, this is Tony, and I know we still have Mark on the line, but the last comments reminded me that for all of those companies that fall under the industry code that begins with 72. That's your theaters, your museums, your essentially all of these what we call entertainment type venues are now eligible for 3.5. I'm sorry, in addition to the incremental 3.5, they have an option, and that is for a grant. And the grant is a direct application, I believe, Carol and Mark, to the SBA, for grants up to $10 million, covering, what is it, 45% of a substantial portion of the cost if they have demonstrated a significant loss of revenues below the thresholds that have been established. So let's make sure that their technical assistance providers are first looking at whether or not they're in a NICS code that begins with 72. And if they are they eligible for a grant? And Mark, we were on the panel together a couple of days ago. I'm not sure when that portal opens. Do you have any idea?
The portal isn't open yet, but it's the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. And that's primarily for Save Our Stages is the nickname for it, but it's for performing arts, live performing arts, folks that are, you know, promoters of performing arts, in the performing arts as actors, those folks that are movie theaters, that sort of thing. It's $15 billion that's been set aside for the SOVG. It's a grant, no tricks. It's a grant. When I say no tricks, I mean it's not going to turn into a loan or anything. All right, that's let me make sure everybody understands that. And it's you have to have had a at least a 45% reduction in your operating revenues. Okay, in that 45% reduction, the way the statute reads or the way the regulation reads now, it states that that will be your maximum loan amount, or $10 million, whichever is less. All right. Now, we're not taking applications right now, but you can go to our webpage to see all the particulars and who's going to qualify for it. Now, under that 72, SIC code 72, you don't have to necessarily be, those guys are basically restaurants, okay? Now, if you're restaurants and you have live entertainment, then it is possible that you can apply for the SVOG grant, okay? But here's one thing that you got to keep in mind with that is that if you have applied for PPP, it has been told to us that you cannot apply for the grant, for the Shuttered Venue Operations Grant.
That's correct.
Now, they consider that drinking from the same well twice. Well, if you guys remember from the PPP, the original PPP, not only did we try to 1099 you for the monies that we gave you, but then we wouldn't let you take the deduction on the 40% costs from your regular revenues and, you know, your regular profit and loss. And if you had the ERTC, that was only up to, you had to make a distinction whether or not you would go with the PPP or the ERTC. Well, now, not only do you not get a 1099 for income, not only are you able to deduct those expenses on that 40% side, but you can also apply for the employee retention tax credit up to $14,000, no longer $6,000. So, you know, if this looks like a big giveaway, I'm not TikToking.
Yeah. Hey, let me make
TikToking.
Yeah, let me make sure it's really clear. The application specifically has a certification that says you will not be getting a Shuttered Venue grant. So you cannot get both. The other thing is that 3.5 times payroll, average monthly payroll for NASEC 72 borrowers only applies to second draw PPP loans, not the first draw.
Yeah,
so
not
if you didn't get one the first time, you got to apply for a first one before you can get a second one. And when you apply for the first one, you still only get 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. Now, if you could quick spend all that money and then qualify to get a second one, you could do it and get 3.5 times, but you better be pretty quick on the trigger spending that money. The other thing I want to point out about the rent is the SBA came out later and determined, and this I believe was only found in the Q&A, that if you pay rent to yourself or to an affiliated LLC, you are limited to the interest on your mortgage, not the rent the business is paying you.
That's true. You can no
You
passive
cannot-
income.
You cannot enrich yourself that way.
Mm-hmm.
Those are important distinctions.
So I think that, yeah, and remember too, with all your clients, my bankers out there, my lenders, that, you know, you got the, I think I put it in the chat, you know, you got supply costs that go into the 14% now, PPE costs that go into the, you know, the cost for that. So to me, this is still one of the greatest programs out there. You mean I'm going to comply with 60% of the payroll, and then I get to pay my other bills for 40%. Then I get to deduct all this too. Man, that's doing wonders for my cash flow. The other thing is that previously you either had to have a cover period from 8 weeks or it was 24 weeks. Now you can go a cover period, whichever matches your cash cycle. It can be 8, 10, 12, 15, 19 weeks, whatever your little heart desires, as long as you don't go over 24 weeks, okay? So that's just another little tip to take a look at for everybody on the call. Doesn't hurt to take a look at our webpage, www.sba.gov/PPP, and it'll all pop up. It'll all pop up and be very, like Matthew said, first draw is different from the second draw. And the second draw comes with different contingencies, like the 25% reduction in gross receipts on a PPP. You know, oh, and the other thing is too, unlike the first draw, the EIDL advance, you don't have to worry about this on the second draw for PPP. And I'm not sure if Carol touched on that, but the EIDL, the advances, got some new strange twists to it too also, where some of those folks that only got partial payments or no payments at all, but got their applications in before December 27th, you'll be made whole. But what'll happen is that SBA will contact you. Don't contact us, we'll contact you. Like the song goes, don't contact us, we'll contact you, you know, same kind of thing. And what'll happen is that you also need to keep in mind that would be a 30% reduction in gross receipts, and you're gonna have to be in an LMI neighborhood, less than 300 employees, the same kind of deal, but it's targeted, and it's targeted for those who are traditionally left out of the process and those who absolutely got left out the process in the first tranche of monies or under the CARES Act of March 27, 2020. Okay? So I'm done.
Bro, this is Tony.
I'm done. Tony, you did me in, man. You made me just talk. I was trying to.
I know. And I caused us to run overtime.
Yeah.
I do have to sign off for another meeting, but wanted to thank you for having us. And Mark, thanks for always having my back.
We got a hand raised here. Wingman Isom has their hand raised.
It's pronounced Wendelin. Thank you.
Wendelin. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Wendelin. Okay.
I came in kind of late on some things, and I was just listening for that PPP loan. My question is, if you own income property and you might have people to come in to renovate the place, can you apply for that loan to utilize it for that?
No.
Okay.
The PPP, the express purpose of the PPP, Wendelin, was to keep people off the unemployment scrolls. If you want to know the absolute truth, if I can be transparent here, and none of you guys are going to turn me in, you know?
No, I was just trying to get the understanding of it, because some people, they say, oh, you can get it or whatever, but so it's like for people that already have employees pre-existing, but if you have income property and you may use people or contractors to do work for you or whatever, you couldn't get it for anything like that. Okay, just want to be clear on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any small businesses loan that you can take out as a property owner?
Under SBA, not really.
Okay.
Because we don't lend money. You know, part of the charge of the SBA is to put money out there for small businesses to go hire people. So when we're looking at passive income, like, you know, you folks who are lords of land and got it like that, you know.
No, I don't have it like that. I was just,
you know, you,
no, I
you
don't
know,
have
you
it
folks
like
that
that.
got it like that. I'm just gonna say what I gotta say. All right. You know, we can't really help you there because we consider that passive income.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to say that I love this group. I really love this group. I think the information that's been shared here today is going to really help a lot of the business people that are out there. Mr. Ferguson, who's with the SBA, I got to say, I love that you talk with the hands and that you get your information out there. And you have that really great voice that people look up to, you know. So anyway, with that being said,
they don't need to look up to me. You look up to these bankers here and the Congresswoman who empowers people like me to help all of you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I definitely want to thank Congresswoman Robin Kelly for assembling this group too. You know, I'm very, very honored to be a part of it.
And April, for all that you do, thank you so much.
Yes, April, for sure.
Together, we appreciate. Can I just say one other thing?
Mr. Newell joined. He was supposed to be a presenter on the panel. He just came in.
Hello, everybody. I apologize for being delayed. I had an emergency to deal with, but I'm glad that you have got a lot of great information from all the wonderful panelists here. You know, I'm sure there's nothing in addition I can add. You know, you got a great team, but like Mark said, work with your bankers, you know, work with your technical assistance providers, make sure your paperwork is up to date, right? And I's dotted and T's crossed, and you should be just fine. But more importantly, rely on your chambers, your politicians. If you have questions, reach out for Melinda, you know, reach out for the congressman, reach out for your alderman. We are all here to help.
And so no, I'm quite sure everybody else did, but could you put your contact information in the chat?
Sure. I'll do that right now.
And I just want to say one other thing. We encourage all businesses to apply. PPP is not to fund your aspirations. But what we find is that some of the businesses, I want to say, overthink it a little bit. It is meant for you to start creating jobs. So if you didn't have a website before, you literally, with your new hire, you know, if you got to retrain your receptionist to do some cross training for you.
That's fine.
So if you keep her on your payroll and let her do an online billing collection or something, that it is meant to do that. What we found with the businesses, they were sort of stuck in trying to figure out dealing with what it is, the way it is. But COVID has changed us. And one of the things, wonderful things about this PPP, now you can have your staff help you do additional research or help you with your business and growth and development plan that all of us as chambers want you to be able to do. You know, identify your profit margins. You can focus on that and pay your staff to be involved in that. So before you try and figure out what, first of all, I think everybody should apply, but stop at one of your TA assist agencies first and let us see if the answer is really you're not eligible. But it does not fund your aspirations. But if you were in business, what I've been able to find is some of them just weren't thinking, you know, it's overwhelming. So don't think alone. You know, let's talk about it.
And also, we're going to be bringing Congresswoman Kelly, the SBA Economic Development Advisory Committee are going to be bringing more webinars. We're looking into like how, as Linda said, how to market your business now, since we're in this new normal. So we're going to be bringing educational webinars to help you grow your business or keep your business afloat while you're doing this new normal and to keep going forward. Because we're just not stopping and worried about, I mean, COVID is here, but hopefully we're going to be out of COVID and you got to keep your business going in the future.
And the
it's always good to have a good leader to get us through the new paradigm. Yeah. And I think that we're in good hands with the Congresswoman getting us through the new paradigm.
Yes, you are.
Absolutely.
Any more questions? If not, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Definitely all the panelists. You've given us great information. Like I said, we're gonna put this on her social media, on her Facebook page and her YouTube channel. So I will send an email out to the chambers and the panelists and the people who have put their information in the chat. It should be out within the next couple, probably later on today. Luis is gonna put it on there, or probably tomorrow. He's gonna put everything out there. So you can be able to, people who didn't attend, you can refer them to her YouTube channel or her Facebook page to get this information.
And April, did you say the information, the contact information in the chat will be sent out too? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm trying to, now, I guess when we tape it, we can pull it up later on, because I'm trying to figure out, I've been writing them down, but I gotta figure out how do I say the chat. I guess Luis will know that because he's taping it.
Well, April, I copied everybody's information. I can send it to you in the document, okay?
Okay.
All right, so I'll just shoot it over to you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And then I'll send it out to everybody.
Okay.
All righty. Well, thank you very much for, as I said again, and we'll look forward to our next webinar and everybody attending. Have a great day. And
thank you so much. Bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you, and have a great one, everyone. Be safe.
Thanks. Stay warm.
Definitely.